Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Boyos Discuss, the podcast where we pick a topic and then shoot the shit about it for a while. This week we're talking about episode 9 of Shenmue the Animation, which is titled Distinct. I'm Matthew, and I'm joined by my co-host Ben. How's it going?
What's up?
So there are going to be spoilers for both the game and the anime, so we do recommend watching the anime either on Toonami or Crunchyroll before listening. So with that out of the way, let's jump right into the synopsis. So we open up this episode with Ryo looking through the Woolen Shoe, that was the book from the end of the last episode, and he's sort of leafing through the pages, and he comes across one that has it's essentially like a lineage for a martial arts style, and he sees the name Zhao Sunming on the page, and he sort of is reminded of Lan Di saying, "That's the name of the man you killed," to his father. And so he's sort of thinking about that, and as he's looking through it, there's this piece of paper that falls out with some mysterious symbols written on it.
Ooh. I appreciate that we're still getting, images of Lan Di. I don't know, does the game, show as many, dreams and visions, and I remember Lan Di, and he's...
So in the first game, you see a lot more of them, he sort of is dreaming about him, and they sort of do that in the anime as well, when he was on that date with Nozomi, and he sort of is deep in thought thinking about him, but he has nightmares about him, but you really don't get much of that in the second game.
Right. So it's it's easy to forget what you're doing, and you're like, oh yeah, Lan Di, I forgot about that guy. So at least we're getting refreshers. Every episode, I feel like every episode's starting with ooh, remember him?
Yeah.
That's the villain.
Yeah, and so it is good that they're sort of doing more of that, but yeah, he sees that piece of paper, fall out of the Woolen Shoe, and he takes it with him. So outside, he sort of leaves the basically the library of the temple, and he goes back to Shu Ying's apartment. And outside of it, he notices, basically eavesdrops on her a little bit, and sees that she's looking at this old photograph, and she's sort of crying there, and she says the name Ziming.
Yeah, it's awkward.
Yeah, it's awkward.
He's and how's she gonna? What's the master of? How is she the master of anything if Ryo can sneak up on her? I mean, come on.
But yeah, so she's clearly deep in thought on something. He sees that, and then we get the intro from there. But after that, we have the following day at Manmo Temple. We have Fang Mei and Ryo. They're done bringing out the books for the day. So they're like, yeah, we did it. That's we don't need to see more of that. But yeah, Ryo shows her the paper that had fallen out of the Woolen Shoe, and she's sort of I don't know what it is, but this guy at the tea shop, he sort of knows a lot about
he'll know
code words, and she's like, yeah, he'll know. So
and he doesn't know.
Yeah. So he goes over there, and the owner of the shop is like, yeah, that's a Chawan sign, but I can't really tell you much about them. You're going to have to talk to Gui Zhang about it, who is the old woman who's been in a few episodes so far. So he's like, yeah, I don't know enough to teach you about
that. Was weird. Away. It was just oh, go here, he'll tell you. I don't know, but go here, she'll tell you. It's whoa, boom, boom.
Yeah,
that
and
was
it's
fucking...
that is how it is in the game as well, but also I don't know.
That's just classic Shenmue waste your time. Yeah, I don't want my time wasted in the anime.
I mean, it's a short scene.
I'm glad it was short, because I don't know, I could go on with alternatives of oh, maybe he'd just be maybe I should talk to the old masters who told me about the voodoo. But would that save time? I don't know.
I mean, that's
they did this so quickly that it's I guess that's the fastest way you could have done this. That's kind of weird, though.
I think talking to the other masters is optional. You can show them the Chawan sign, and they're
in the game,
and they're like, I don't know, man, I don't know about it. But yeah, so he goes over to the Yantin apartments and shows Gui Zhang the basically the little piece of paper, and she teaches him what Chawan signs are, and she basically tells him that they're codes that martial arts masters use. Essentially, if they're from the same school, they use those codes to communicate with each other, and each of the code words sort of corresponds to a position that these 4 teacups have to be arranged in, and on the back of the paper, it has the arrangement that they're supposed to be in, and so she's like, hey, you got to arrange them in this position and go to where people meet, And then if someone is like an associate of Yandazu, they'll leave a message.
Yeah, and like they're called like the positions are like heaven, earth, serpent, and friend or something.
Friend, mother's
mother. Yeah,
mother's
heaven, earth, mother, friend.
Yeah. In the game, it's comrade, but yeah,
and that's
friend.
like the shit that was the code the Chens had.
Yeah. So it's cool that there's like carryover with that. But it's interesting because in this, he sort of immediately goes to the place that he advances the story. But in the game, you can go to all sorts of different places and try the Chawan sign out. And he just like waits around for hours, and then he's like, I guess this isn't the right place.
And that seems way more realistic, but I mean, I guess, fuck it. We're trying to move the plot forward.
I mean, yeah, we gotta move fast enough to get out of Hong Kong in this.
You could do like a montage.
That would have been cool. Yeah. I would have appreciated
Time for a montage.
But
montage.
So he goes to let's see, where does he go first? He goes to this restaurant. It might have even been the no, it was just like an outdoor restaurant. So he goes to this restaurant and he does the Chawan sign there.
Immediately.
And immediately, like, I mean, they show a bit of a time jump, like he's waiting there a few hours.
Yeah, but there's a guy that like very obviously goes,
Yeah, he notices it, and then yeah, later on in the day, he gives him this little note, and he's like, yeah, meet at Manmo Park at 9:00 tonight. And so Rio goes to the park, and it's a trap.
He just gets fucking bonked.
He gets bonked by a lead pipe, and in the game,
That's it. Roll credits.
Yeah,
it's the end.
I talked to you a bit about this, but in the game, you can actually win that fight, at least if my memory is correct. Like, it's a QTE in the game. You can catch the lead pipe and beat up the dudes, but in this, he loses it, and he sort of gets knocked out, and he's having this nightmare about Londi, and he's sort of like chasing after him. And then Londi just fucking turns around and like
whoops his ass.
Knocks him out in one hit, and he's like, damn. He wakes up from the nightmare. And when he wakes up, we see that Rio is fucking shredded.
Dude.
Like
cut like a fucking marble statue, that one. He has peaches for shoulders. What the fuck am I looking at? I did not know he was that fucking big. It's like, god damn. He looks like a fucking
he's a Greek god.
He looks like a teenager on Netflix.
Yeah. It's just interesting because like we have never really seen him that buff, I guess. Well, we've never seen him
It'd be fine if he was like toned, but he's like big.
He's shredded.
He's not just shredded, he's big. Like he has girth. That man eats 3,000 calories a meal. He's fucking yoked.
It's all the hot dogs.
It took me aback.
Yeah.
I was like, holy shit.
But he sort of wakes up and he's all bandaged up. And he notices, because he's in Shu Ying's apartment, he notices that photo that she had been looking at earlier. And he sort of takes a look at it and he flips it around and he sees the name Shu Ying and Ziming on it. And he's sort of like, oh, that's the person, So after that, Feng Mei, she comes into the apartment and, she's sort of talking with Rio a bit, and he asks her who Zuming is. And she basically tells him that it's Shu Ying's older brother and that they were both orphans as children, and eventually one day he just sort of left out of the blue and left Shu Ying. So she offers to change Rio's bandages, and it's very clearly like, girl, you were just trying to get him shirtless again.
He's like, you just changed my bandages.
Yeah. You changed them when you got here.
God, what's with you and changing my bandages?
So after that, Rio, not being sort of brought back by getting bonked on the head by a fucking lead pipe, he's back at it, doing the Chawan sign. He tries it at the Hong Kong tea shop from earlier. And a man notices him using the sign, and he's like, oh, you're a martial artist, I see. And he's like, oh, are you one too? And he's like, I used to be. And he shows this fucking gnarly cut on his arm.
It didn't look like retirement gnarly.
Yeah, but that's sort of what he gets at. He's like, yeah, I used to be until I got this.
I got a real bad cut on my arm. Yeah. It's like, oh, I mean, that's...
Could it have been from the straight razor?
That's kind of bad, I guess.
We'll get to the straight razor later. Yeah, he's like, yeah, you're a martial artist, and he's like, oh, you should teach me about the voodoo because you're sort of an old dude, and all the people who've taught me about them have been old dudes and an old woman.
I'm sensing a trend.
Yeah. So the guy is like, yeah, I'll come over here. I'll teach you. I'll cut your hair or whatever, and I'll teach you about that.
Nice.
So he takes him to the barber, and essentially what happens is he's like, well, okay, I'm jumping ahead here. Like the guy's like, okay, I saw a similar sign to the one you're using at Dojang Diner. You might want to try that there later. And he tells Ryo that he made a mistake with the Chawan sign that he's been using, and that even one misplaced teacup could put his life at risk.
I don't fucking get that.
So my sort of like, I guess, guesswork on that is that if you do the wrong sign
you
and
get
someone
mugged?
sees it, yeah. So
What?
it's like, if you do the, hey, like I'm from a rival school sign, then it's like, oh shit, I'm gonna beat the fuck out of that guy.
I
sort of
guess.
thing. It's weird, but it's like, they at least explain it somewhat. So yeah, they go to the barbershop, and the barber tests Ryo, and we've talked about this a few times before, but
It's just as stupid as I thought it would be.
he tests him by lunging a straight razor at his neck, and of course Ryo flinches,
Right.
like any sort of rational human
Yes.
being would. And the man is like, okay.
Oh, you suck. Get the fuck out.
He's like, yeah, you got good reflexes, but you're still lacking something. And that reminds Ryo of his father.
Would you think I would cut you, pussy? Huh? Fuck you. And Rio's like, what the fuck, man? I just got jumped. I'm fucking nervous. And he's like, fuck you. Go put your teacups in the right order, bitch. That's how it goes. I was like, Jesus, this show took a pretty deep tone shift, but who am I to judge?
So that reminds Ryo of his father and Han-Hui, Stalin Stash, both of them being like, yeah, you ain't got shit.
Yeah,
You
he has
suck.
a montage of people talking shit to him. Like, you're
Yeah.
a bitch.
Well, and it's weird because, like, other people have pointed this out online, but, like, all the flashbacks we've had of Ryo's father are always
You
still
suck.
frames.
Oh.
But he's just, like, with his mouth open. But then the one of Han-Hui is actually, like,
Animated?
in motion, and it's like, that's weird. Like, I don't know why they chose to do that. But it's just a nitpick,
It's
if anything.
foreshadowing. Han-Hui's going to become his new father.
So after that, Ryo, not being discouraged, he goes to Dojang Diner, and he does the Chawan sign. He finally gets it right, and the sort of not receptionist, what am I saying? The fucking...
Waitress?
Yeah, the waitress.
Yeah.
She's like, oh, you got a phone call, and he goes into the phone booth, and he answers it, but it's all a ruse.
He goes, Moshi Moshi?
Moshi,
Moshi Moshi! And then no one answers.
And so he goes back to where he was sitting, and he sees a little message that's left there, and it says to meet back at the restaurant at 8 o'clock that night. And this is sort of, I want to jump into some gameplay stuff here. So in Shenmue 1, anytime you had to wait for an event to happen, you had to fill time doing other stuff, like
Playing Lucky Hit, right.
I mean, there wasn't Lucky Hit in the
Oh,
first game,
damn.
but playing arcade games,
Yeah,
or
Space Harrier.
yeah, or training in the alley. But in Shenmue 2, they sort of like, I guess, I don't know if it was like feedback or whatever from the first game. They gave you the option to actually wait between events, like just
Like it fast forwards?
yeah, it would just fast forward.
That's,
So
see, that's, yes, that sounds like it's almost fun. That's good. that's good game innovation.
but yeah, so that just sort of reminded me of that. But yeah, this would be one of those instances where it was like, okay, I'll just like fast forward time. It's like, because you can't
Just
train.
shut my brain off.
Yeah.
I forgot earlier, he put the first time he put the cups in order, he waits like for 6 hours. I don't know fucking how long. And then he goes, I'll get the check. And it's like, the check for what?
Yeah,
You
it's
didn't
like-
do anything. You just got 4 empty cups. I wanted that waiter to go off on him and be like, bitch, get out of here.
Nah, he's like, here's a message. Here you go.
You've been eating all of our bread and drinking our water. I hate you. So he probably did that again because he's
Yeah.
a dick.
Yeah.
Fuck this guy.
And that's why the guy gave him that note, and he was like, I'm going to beat the shit out
Yeah,
of him with
yeah.
a lead pipe later.
It was the store owner.
So after that, after he gets that message, we go over to Manmo Temple, and Fang Mei, she's doing chores around there, and Shu Ying asks where Rio is, and Fang Mei is like, yeah, he went to this tea shop earlier today.
My God.
And yeah, I mean, like, Shu Ying's reaction is sort of like melodramatic.
Oh, dear
She's
Lord.
like, fuck that guy. What the fuck is he doing? And so she's worried about him.
Did he bring a doily? Huh? Did he bring his doily?
So she's like, yeah, like his mind isn't clear and serene as a polished mirror, and he, keeps sort of goofing up.
Almost
and
a phoenix mirror, if you
some
would
might say.
Some may say.
Well, and it's sort of going off of that. This line, like clear as a polished mirror, that's something that she actually tells Rio in the game. Like, there's this whole part before she gives him the key to get the Wulin shoe. She's like, yeah, you have to sort of clear your mind and sort of calm down before I'll let you investigate that. And she's like, yeah, you need your mind as clear as a polished mirror, and to do that, she has him catch leaves from a tree. And at first you catch one, and he's like, okay, I got it. Give me the key now. And she's like, how about you do 3 in a row? And if you mess up one of them, you have to restart the 3 in a row.
Oh my God.
And so when you finally succeed, she's like, okay.
My mind's not clear. I'm just frustrated now,
Yeah.
you bitch.
But I thought that was a neat thing that she still said that, at least. Even if it wasn't to him. But,
yeah.
And I mean, that line does come up later in like the like big fight at the end of the game.
Yeah, when they're cutting up the lines between them all, and they're like, hey, we're doing this on a mirror, just like how the master said my mind should be. Neat. And then they rip fat ones.
No.
Oh.
Not at all. So later that night, at Dojang Diner, Rio meets up with an informant, and it's Yanda Zhu's informant. And, they sort of talk a little bit. It's a pretty brief exchange, and some thugs show up, and they're led by Yuan, who is probably one of the most controversial characters in the franchise.
Yeah.
So in the Japanese version of the game, Yuan is a sort of effeminate, like cross-dresser a little bit, like a man. And in the English version of the game, Yuan is a woman, but maybe a trans woman? Like, it's never explicitly said. Like, they refer to her as she, and it's voiced, like, the character's voiced by a woman, but it's, like, very clearly a man sort of thing. So it's a weird thing where, I don't know, I'm glad they finally got everything on the same page, and it's the same for the English dub of the anime as well. It is a man now.
It just seems unnecessary.
It's
like,
weird.
does it serve any purpose?
I mean, a little bit later on, but it's more like what. Okay, I'll just tell you now. Like, it's a spoiler for later,
okay.
But there's the big bad of the Kowloon section of the game is this huge, massive, like, not sumo wrestler dude, but like he's a bigger dude named Don Yu, and he is in a relationship with Yuan.
Okay.
And so it's sort of this thing where it's like, you find that out and you're like, whoa, that's interesting.
Good for him.
Like, I was
what a
not
progressive
expecting.
gang member.
Yeah, and it's like, it's just interesting, sort of like, I don't know, it's not that they play it for laughs, it's just more like you weren't expecting it sort of thing. But that's
it's like the Monarch and Dr. Girlfriend from Venture Bros.
I haven't seen that show, so I don't know about that. But we'll see if they actually sort of do that in this, because that was more or less like, not an Easter egg, but it's just something that you can sort of pick up on. But we'll see if they do that later on. We'll get to that. But so Yuan and the thugs show up. Rio fights off a couple of them, and essentially the informant tries like running away. He runs like through the middle of all these thugs.
Dude,
and of course
he did not fucking
him.
run away. He went, I got this, and ran into the middle of 8 dudes. What a fucking idiot.
So
that's not. Restaurants have multiple exits.
Not this one.
He's like, look out, kid. Don't worry. I'm gonna try to get away. Run straight at the fucking group. The group. Didn't even try to throw any punches. He just fucking, oh, they got me.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
So some of the thugs have him, and, Ryo fights off some of the other ones, and one of them, he was the leader of the Yellowheads from the Golden Shopping Mall, who were harassing the street performer, and he's like, hey, I remember that kid. Fuck that guy.
Yeah.
And so after that, they have this, like, Western standoff moment where, Yuan is on one side, Ryo's on the other, and they, like, flash
Pose.
up to his eyes. Yeah, he has this, like, cool pose where it's, like, sort of a silhouette of him with his eyes glowing.
That was cool.
It's cool. But then Shu Ying, she's sort of in the shadows a little bit, and she starts knocking out all of Yuan's other thugs.
No, she doesn't. She, I guess, blows real hard on their pressure points from where she's standing in the corner, and they faint. She doesn't do anything. They just faint. They faint. Ryo, no. Because later Ryo goes, what happened? How would he not know?
Well, that's
He's
what
looking at them.
That's what I was going to say is, like, Ryo, I don't know if he was just, like, spacing out or what the deal with that is, but he's just, like, sitting there, like, staring stoically, and then after all the goons get knocked out, he's like, whoa?
The only explanation is that the master is a mind flayer, or can just narrow her lips to such a molecular circumference that she can just hyper shoot focused air into their knockout spot, the Vulcan neck pinch spot, and they just crumple and die.
So, yeah, I mean, realistically speaking, we were robbed of one of the, like, longest and coolest QuickTime event scenes in this part. I showed Ben this sort of prior to us recording.
That's pretty dope.
Yeah, it's, like, awesome. I think it might be the longest QuickTime event in Shenmue 2, maybe even in the entire franchise.
It's just like a line of goons in a market, and they're coming at him one at a time. And he's just throwing one punch at each of them, and they fly across into stands and shit and break a bunch of stuff. And Ryo's like, yeah, I'm so fucking cool.
Yeah, and it's awesome. Like, it really makes you feel like he's sort of progressed to the point where he's, like, a lot stronger now.
He's a force of nature.
Yeah, and so, I don't know, it's a bummer that we didn't get that, but I sort of get why. Like, it would have been sort of a lot of budget to do that.
I would have been a little surprised if they used a bunch of their, like, if they used a huge chunk of time for a fight scene in this for, like, those guys. I'd be like, wow, that...
Yeah.
That was more than the 70-man fight.
Yeah. And it's like, at least, I don't know, like, context-wise, it makes sense that they cut this one short. So, it's a bummer, but it is what it is. So after that, Shu Ying knocks out all the goons, and Yuan is like...
Somehow.
Yeah. And Yuan, he hasn't really noticed that this happened, and Yuan is like, get him, boys! And then that's when he notices that they're all knocked out.
And I am the fool!
Yeah, and Yuan...
And the spaghetti falls out of her pockets.
Yeah. And he runs off, he sort of trips over one of the goons, and after that, Ryo sort of unties the associate of Yandazu, and they talk a little bit, and Ryo shows him the letter that Yandazu had sent to his father shortly before he died, and the informant, who we sort of are revealed that his name is Zhang, and it's weird because it's interesting because he's a character that the creator of the franchise sort of fixates on in a weird, like, he's a character that I wouldn't have thought would have been in the anime, but he is also in the DLC of Shenmue 3 as, like, a side story.
What?
And it's like, that's, of all the characters you could have brought back, it's just weird that they bring him back. So it's interesting, and I don't know that, like, maybe they have more plans for him in the future beyond Shenmue 3, but so they're sort of talking, and he's like, yeah, Lan Di killed my father or whatever before the letter got to him, and Zhang is like, oh, that means that the Chiyu men have extended their reach into Japan, and Ryo asks him, like, I'm looking for Yandazu, where can I find him? And he tells Ryo that in order to find Yandazu, he's going to need to get into contact with Ren of Heavens, which is a sort of rival gang to the Yellowheads in Hong Kong. So after that, Ryo immediately goes to Ren's hideout, and there's some goons blocking his way. He fights them. He does a pretty good job of kicking their asses. And, they're like, okay, we'll take you. Just don't beat us up anymore.
Yeah.
So he, one of the goons leads him to the entrance to the hideout, and he gets bonked on the head yet again. With another lead pipe. And he even says something like, oh, not
he's
again.
Like, damn it, not again. Because he's a buffoon.
So he gets knocked out, and he wakes up on Wong's boat. And,
he goes, this is the Wong boat.
And, in the game, Wong is a lot more concerned for Ryo. Because Ryo is knocked out for, a few days. Because sort of what happens in the game is he goes to the Heaven's Gang, basically base of operations. And it's one of those instances where it's a fight you can't lose. He is surrounded by all the gang members. And, you fight for a while, but eventually it, fades to black, and you just hear, punching noises, and he's like, oh, he lost the fight. So he wakes up on
It's a
Wong...
fight you can't win.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and so he wakes up on Wong's boat. In the game, Wong is, really worried about Ryo. He's like, hey, next time they'll fucking kill you. You need to not do that again. I was able to get you out this time. But in the anime, he's just sort of like, yeah, take this lighter and tell them that you're here to give Ren money.
Did they answer how he got there?
I mean, Wong is sort of like, I made a scene to bring you back here, and that's it. Don't ask any questions beyond that. It's never mind that carrying
how did the kid carry this
across boats.
This behemoth.
Yeah, this shredded man.
Yeah.
But he tells Ryo, just tell Ren, or basically Ren's goons, that you're there to give him some cash, and he gives him this lighter, which is the Heavens. It has the symbol of
Pretty
the gang
sick
on it.
Lighter, yeah.
It's a cool lighter.
Zippo.
So he's like, take that and they'll let you into the hideout. And Wong also tells Ryo that Ren will only take him seriously if he has nerves of steel, and we'll sort of get back to that later. That's going to be a theme going forward. So Ryo, he goes back to the entrance of the hideout, and the goons are like, okay, if you're here to give him money, we'll let you in. And he finally meets Ren, and I don't know, I'll say the reveal is a little bit underwhelming compared to how it is in the game. We have this sort of, I don't want to say flamboyant entrance, but he, it's this dark sort of warehouse in the game, and they turn the lights on a car, and it blasts Ryo's eyes, and he's like, oh shit. In the game, whereas in this, he just sort of goes into this this room, and Ren is
lounge.
Ren is just chilling there. He's like, hey, what's up? I hear you got money for me.
Is this the first time you see Ren in the game?
Honestly, I think, yeah. Yeah, okay. I think in the game, that's the first time you see him.
I don't really understand why we had to see Ren earlier in the anime.
Yeah, I guess it was more to just, vaguely introduce him.
Why?
So I don't know. It's just to see what he's about. He's about money. He's interested in meeting Ryo.
Joy just stops, and he's like, hey. And she goes, hey, there's a sexy Japanese guy. And he's like, word.
Yeah. I don't know. I do like that we see more of him, but also, it would have been interesting to, hear about him. Because I do think you hear about the Heaven's Gang throughout early Hong Kong, and then you find the leader, and you're like, oh, it's this guy.
I don't really understand why they showed him earlier.
But they're finally introduced, and Ryo's like, hey, you should tell me where Yandazu is. And Ren is like, yeah, I'll tell you, but let me test you first. And he fucking says, are the gods with you? And he fucking lunges this knife at his neck. And Ryo, he thinks back on what Wong said, and he's like, I gotta keep my cool. So he doesn't flinch at all when this fucking gangster puts a knife to his neck. And Ren's like, okay, you're cool.
You're all right, kid.
You got what it takes. So he's like, okay, I'll take you to Yandazu. Follow me. And they go to this, I don't know if it's a drug deal. It's a deal of some kind. And it's yuan.
It's a Pokemon card trade.
Sure. That's the PG version. But it's yuan and some other sort of, I don't know, weird, sort of shady characters. And Ren and Ryo sneak up on them. And Ren is clearly there to just get the money. He turns off the lights, knocks out a couple of the goons, takes the money, and then books it, leaving Rio there. And so they turn the lights back on, and Rio's like, shit, where did Ren go? And so what happens then is Rio knocks over this pipe on the wall, which alerts the goons that he's there, and he's like, well, shit, I gotta fight them now.
He doesn't run.
Yeah, he doesn't run.
He doesn't
just
move. They all just run up on him.
Yeah, and that's
like
how it is in the game. Like, that is 1-to-1.
And he starts crying because he shit his pants like the toddler he is. Why didn't he fucking run?
But he's able to beat them up, so it doesn't matter. He fights them all off, and he chases after Ren, sort of running through Pigeon Park. And they run across the city. You know, he's chasing Ren throughout there. We get a lot of sort of QTE type stuff where, you know, like Ren knocks over this waitress, and Rio sort of helps her out. He's like, oh, are you okay? And he jumps over this guy pushing a cart. They end up getting to this like construction area where they're building, you know, some sort of building. And they're running through it, and Ren is about to escape. He's going to slide down this, I don't know, like bamboo pole that they're using to hold up part of the building. And, before he's able to escape, Rio jumps onto the scaffolding also.
Whoa!
And we get this thing where it shows it a few times, and that's how it is in the game.
It shows it like 5 times.
Yeah.
From like different angles and in slow-mo with just the super sound effect. It's like, all right, fuck, we get like, was that cool?
It's cool. I mean, it's pretty cinematic compared to what
I was confused for a minute because I thought he was like breaking everyone as he came down because they kept, I don't know, it took me a few times for me to be like, are they just re-showing from different angles when he broke the first one? It's just random because the rest of no other time does that happen.
Yeah, and so it's like, I don't know, if you knew that from the game, you would sort of be like, oh, it's just like in the game.
Oh, it's that goofy thing.
I think it's cool. It's cinematic. I don't know, it's just neat. So they fall off. It's like a couple story fall.
Yeah.
And they fall onto this like sort of truck thing, and they're both like, ah. And Rio, the Phoenix mirror fell out of his back pocket.
Along with the spaghetti.
And Ren notices it, and he's like, like, that's interesting. Like, that's
now this fucking raises the question. I've been waiting for this part to come up. Because this motherfucker's been mugged twice in one episode.
Yeah.
And they don't take his mirror? Does he carry that around with him every time? You'd think he'd be like, I risk being bonked on the head constantly.
Yeah,
because I'm a goofball.
Yeah.
I should leave this in my sock drawer and not take it with me everywhere.
Yeah.
Because this is the most valuable thing I possess.
Yeah.
Remember that time that old man was like, this would end the world?
Yeah.
There's a literal demon. And Rio's like, well, it's my good luck charm. I keep it here with my rabbit's foot and my little scrap of newspaper from when I was born. Fucking idiot. It's like a very large, inconvenient thing to have on you. Also, if you're chasing this motherfucker through the streets and like, I'm going into a gang hideout where I was already robbed. Whatever. Fucking, it was dumb. That was stupid. And I do not approve.
When it's like, I've always been... Like, the mirror is pretty big. I can't see it fitting in the back pocket of your jeans.
Was it even in his jeans? Was it in his jacket? Because he, like,
Maybe
picks it back up, and I think he puts it back in his jacket.
Yeah, maybe you're right.
Which makes even less sense.
Yeah, it's weird.
He's going to break it. There's 10 million things that can happen to it. It's like, dude.
Phantom Riverstone.
That was fucking
it's
dumb.
hardy.
Oh, he knows that?
That would be...
It's already been, like, possibly stolen twice.
Yeah. Well, and it's like, I don't know, interesting in that, in the game, it gets stolen in the bag.
Right.
So it's like, without that context, maybe he's not as worried. I don't know.
He should
it's
fucking
goofy.
be.
Yeah, he should be. But Ren is sort of like, yeah, like, I smell money in this, like, you're looking for an important person.
Mr. Krabs.
Yeah, he's like, I'll help you find Yundazu in exchange for a portion of whatever money.
Money, please.
Yeah. And Rio, obviously, like, I don't even think at this point that in the game or the anime that they've ever alluded to the mirrors leading to money in any capacity. He just sort of
They're green like money.
Sure. But yeah, he's like, yeah, I'll help you out. Just give me some money for it. And he sort of is poking fun at Rio. He's like, yeah, like you're out seeking revenge and you're sort of jumping into all these dangerous situations without thinking about it beforehand. But me, I only do stuff if there's money, and if I'm dead, then I can't spend money. So I don't
die.
See,
that's the secret.
Yeah.
That's not what everybody knows, is to not die. But me, I'm ahead of the game.
Yeah. So that causes Rio to have another one of his patented epiphanies where he's like, I get it! And so the next day, he goes back to the barber shop and finally passes the barber's test with the straight razor.
Christ.
So he puts it up to his neck, and Rio doesn't flinch this time, and the barber's like, yeah, you did it, kid. And he's like, okay, that's what you were lacking. I'll teach you the fourth voodoo now.
That's fucking stupid. And we've already talked about why it's stupid. I'm talking about why it's stupid that he let him try it again. You know? Like, if some motherfucker, if I was trying to get something out of this guy, and he's like, oh, well, real fast, let me try this, and tries to put a razor to my neck, I flinch, obviously, and he goes, that didn't work, sorry.
Yeah.
If he let me try again, I would not flinch. I'd be like, is that what you wanted, you fucking weirdo? And then it would, and he did, I wish that he'd, like, I don't know how this would have worked, honestly, and it would have been counter to the game, probably, but if he did the thing with Ren first, where Wong is like, have nerves of steel and skin of stone and flesh of iron and whatever, and he didn't react, and he learned that lesson there. And then that kind of happens again where this master's like, ooh, we'll try this on. And Rio's like, bitch,
nah, I
learned a way scarier motherfucker than you just tried to do this to me.
Yeah.
And
You're
then
right,
he goes, okay, done, or whatever.
But so he teaches Rio the fourth dawn, or the fourth voodoo, which is dawn.
Yeah, they say like tan.
Yeah,
like with a T.
It's weird where, like, I don't know, there's just stuff that in Japanese does not, like, sound the same as it would in English, I guess. Like, there's even instances where Rio, like, it's either he says yes or no, but it's, like, the opposite of the English word for that. Like, when he says no, he's like, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And it's, like, that's sort of confusing. And I'm playing the Yakuza 0 right now, and it's a similar thing where it's, like, the English translation is sometimes like opposite of what it would be in Japanese, so it's sort of interesting that there's that sort of difference. But he says, dawn means to never be shaken, remain calm and resolute in order to make the proper decision, which is like, that's a weird
the proper
way.
decision would be to flinch from a razor at your neck that a guy just throws there.
But he didn't sense any malice.
Oh my god.
It's time.
Did he sense malice with the two fucking bonks? No, he didn't sense shit.
His back was turned. It was a cheap shot. That's all I can say about that. But so after he's learned the fourth voodoo, he goes back to Manmo Temple. It's gotten a little formulaic, for lack of a better word, at this point, where it's like I
learned the Wu Day.
He has the epiphany. The person teaches him.
You're not ready.
Yeah, and then he goes to Shu Ying.
I'll show you.
Yeah, and each time she's been like, "Nah, fam, that's not the right one."
The big fat ass pointed out and titties up in his face.
Jesus Christ. But she asks him yet again why he's come to Hong Kong, and he still is just sort of saying, "I'm here to find out the truth about why my father was killed, and that's it. No revenge whatsoever. Don't worry about that. Just get that idea out of your head right now." And she says...
Not the Amazon. Denial.
She sort of has this interesting thing that she tells him where she's like, what if it turns out that, you find out the truth and your father was killed on accident? Like, it wasn't, like, he wasn't supposed to get killed. Like, what then? Like, what would you do then? And Rio's like, oh, fuck, I don't know. And she's like, I do. You're going to fucking murder the shit out of Londi. And like, that is not the path that you should be going down. Like, you've learned.
He wishes he could murder Londi.
Honestly, yes. But She's like, yeah, you've learned what the voodoo are, but you're not following what they mean.
Yeah, she's like, you dense motherfucker. You learned all 4 things, and you're still an idiot.
You had all these epiphanies
and
that
you're still
mean
dumb as a
nothing.
rock. You'd still drown in 3 inches of water.
Yeah. Get bonked on the head by another lead
Sharp
pipe.
as a cue ball.
So, yeah, Rio, he sort of is like, okay, I'm not going to be able to convince you that I'm not after revenge. Like, we're at an impasse here, and I don't want to burden you anymore, so I'm leaving. That's it. And she says, very well. And that's how the episode ends.
Yeah, it just goes straight to credits. I was like, oh, no other scene? All right.
Yeah, and so it's going to be interesting to see.
It seems like she kind of related Rio to her brother, though.
Yeah, we get a lot of, like, I didn't really talk about that much, but, him leaving and sort of throughout the episode, Shu Ying is having these flashbacks to her brother when he left the orphanage, and she sort of sees some of that in Rio, and Rio is even like, yeah, like, initially I thought you were trying to help me, but really you were sort of internalizing feelings that you had about your brother. And so, I don't know, it's going to be interesting to see if we get any more of that. I sort of doubt it, because this is about as far as we get in terms of that development in the game anyways.
Oh, so he's, like, done with Manmo.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, he says goodbye in the games, like, to all the different masters.
Seem final. Yeah. It was just like, you know what? Forget this. And she goes, very well.
Yeah.
That's how it ends?
Yeah, and so I'm going to be interested to see in the next episode if we have Rio saying goodbye to everyone in Hong Kong, even if it's just a montage. Because then the other thing that we have not learned yet, or Rio has not learned yet, is there's this move, which is I think it's the counter elbow assault that Shu Ying
rolls right off
teaches.
the tongue.
Yeah, I mean, if they say that when he does the move.
Counter elbow assault!
I'm like, no, I hope he doesn't do that. But, yeah, that's like, she teaches, because, like, earlier when they spar in the game, she uses that move on him, and it knocks him on his ass, and he's like, fuck, what move was that? And she's like, you're not ready to learn it yet. But then when he leaves...
It's the Nunya move.
When he leaves, though, Shu Ying is like, yeah, I'm not going to help you beyond teaching you this move, because I think it could save your life, basically. And so it's interesting that we haven't learned that yet. And so if they do that sort of goodbye in the next episode, I'm curious to see if she teaches him that, or if that's something that he learns later on from someone else. But yeah, so we cue the credits, and that's it for that episode. What did you think, sort of overall?
It was good. It wasn't as much filler as the last episode of just like they tried to find somebody for 2/3 and then found them, and then we learned the Wude.
Yeah,
like it was nice to have the Wude kind of take a back seat to development in the actual plot, and then like along that path, he's like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna let this barber kill me, and I learned a new one. So
well, like they relate it to the main event of the sort of story with him meeting Ren, and it's like I do appreciate.
Well, right, like he's not meeting Ren for the Wude.
Yeah,
he's like Yandazu. This is why I'm here. Fuck the Wude. Like the Wude was just kind of like a thing for him to do. It seems like.
Yeah.
But anytime that it's all that was keeping him from the master being helpful, really.
Yeah.
So it's good to see him just be like, I want to learn martial arts, but fuck it if I have a chance of progressing the plot. And I'm like, yeah, same, brother. So no, it's good. I like seeing the gang stuff. I liked it better than the last episode.
Yeah, I think that this was sort of a good capstone on like the Hong Kong portion of the story, assuming that we don't do the goodbye in the next episode. But why do you think this episode was called Distinct?
Because the creators have a distinct lack of interest in the titles. This one is actually like, I don't even have a bullshit English 3 response to this one. Distinct.
Yeah, I'm at a loss as well for what that could be.
I'm really trying. I'm thinking, and I don't know any part of this episode that would make any sense with that.
Yeah, so I guess this is the first one where we're at a loss for words on that. If anyone has any sort of ideas, feel free to leave them in the comments below. But yeah, I have no idea.
I've got fucking nothing. I really don't.
Yeah. So, now that we're done, presumably, in Hong Kong, how do you think this portion of the story compared to Yokosuka as sort of like its own little, I guess, area?
It is better. I look at like the Yokosuka stuff, and it's like the first 3 episodes are kind of its own thing, and then the docks are like their own thing.
Yeah.
And the docks are awful. Fuck the docks.
And they shouldn't be. That's what...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, no, I know. You're right.
Yeah.
But they were. So this was like the first 3 episodes of Yokosuka.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't feel like we're in the end game nearly. Like, it's still building and rising, and the gangs are like out there, and you don't know much about them.
Yeah.
You know, kind of like how the Mad Angels were and all that. And it's like with the Chens and the what are they called? The Landis gang.
Oh, the Chiyu Men.
Chiyu Men.
Yeah.
You know, you hear these names, but you're like, ooh, we've only barely seen them. So I feel like this is the best part of the kind of whole journey is the kind of beginnings and like the build up.
Yeah.
Because I mean, there's only been one attempt at a big finale for something, and it fell flat.
Yeah.
We'll have to see how the finale goes for like game 2. Or however they're going to wrap up this anime.
Yeah, and it's...
But I'm thinking this is going to be the better part of this half.
Yeah.
And then I think it's... I don't want to be right, but it's probably going to be downhill from here.
Oh.
When they're fucking... Well, I don't know. I don't know how the game goes, like, honestly. But if it's going to be like, where you learn everything and then there's fights and, like, big climax, they didn't do it well in the first game in this anime, so, you know.
So, I will say that, like, at least... this portion of the story, like, once we get to Kowloon, it culminates in, like, like a QTE sort of fight with a bunch of goons and then one big fight. So I think it won't feel as lacking, I guess.
I would really like a big fight. There has not been, like, somebody evenly matched with Rio that they fight for an extended period.
Yeah.
Like, I forget the guy's name, but he wears the business suit and he's Chen's son.
Yeah, Guizhang.
Guizhang was very evenly matched, and it was
That's
interesting
like the
when they
longest
fought.
Fight we've gotten.
Right, and they didn't fight long. It was like a few minutes.
And it was fake, also.
Yeah.
Like, in the context of the anime
I want to
version.
see a fucking fight. This is why I watch anime. I mean, like, it's not the only reason, but the fights are fucking, like, make it good.
Yeah,
make it last a few episodes even. Like, if you're going to have other things going on, like, fucking keep it going.
Yeah, and it's an important part of what Shenmue is. Like, sort of at its core... it started off as a Virtua Fighter RPG.
I would be totally fine with the fucking, Dragon Ball Shonen style of fucking being like, this is the hardest motherfucker on the planet.
We have 10 minutes for this battle. Let's stretch it out over 20 episodes.
Oh, did you think he was hard? The next guy makes him look like a bitch. Like, that would be kind of fun.
Yeah.
That hasn't happened in this anime yet. So I'd like to see that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't just like to see another, goons, sick him, and then he beats the goons.
Only some of them.
With his explosive punches.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm in agreement. I think that this portion of the story has been better, or at least more consistent so far than what we had in Yokosuka overall.
Mm-hmm.
And
they've gone slower.
Yeah, and I'm okay.
They've really drawn it out, and that makes it better.
Yeah, and so I'm glad that you agree with that, because it's sort of a very Shenmue thing to be like, yeah, we need to pace this out, like he's gradually learning.
I did think this would be the most fucking boring thing I've ever watched, and it's not.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, cool. Like, I'm glad it's not as drawn out as the game, but...
Well, I'm glad. That makes me really happy, and I'm hopeful that more people who aren't familiar with the games at all are maybe like...
I kind of
having a similar vibe.
I'm kind of feeling like playing the games,
Hell yeah, dude.
Like,
I was going to talk to you about that, because we've sort of talked about having you play Shenmue 3, and you don't have to commit right now, but
now that I've seen the anime and I know how the story flows and kind of what you're supposed to do, like, it makes me want to kind of, like, go in and just fuck the games up, be like, yeah, I've seen Rio in the show, So I'm going to be like that.
Yeah, I specifically, when I replayed, because I recently replayed the entire trilogy, I specifically made a save, like, early in the first game, after I fully trained, like, most of the moves, specifically for this reason.
For me?
Maybe. I was like, maybe he'll do it, maybe. So my idea is you play through up until where I started training the moves, and then just pick up immediately, like, and just load the save from when I trained all the moves. Like, we'll talk about that a bit, but, like, because I know that's something that, like, it takes a long fucking time to train the moves. And you want to be strong, like, you want to be good at them. But, so I just keep that in mind. Like, yeah, we'll sort of get into that.
Revisit that.
Yeah, we'll revisit that later. But, are there any sort of final thoughts you have before we wrap things up for this episode?
Nah.
All right.
Yeah, no.
All right, so that's going to do it for today's episode of the Boyos Discuss. If you enjoyed the show and you're listening on YouTube, then we'd really appreciate it if you'd like the video and subscribe to the channel. Anyways, guys, until next time.